All right, what's up? I'm on a spree of making these videos, so I'm just gonna keep rocking and rolling. I want to talk about what I believe is the main event of the prelims for UFC 310. So it's the main event for anyone that's not buying the pay-per-view, which is, I'm probably not gonna buy this one. Who knows? Sometimes I change my mind last minute. But it is Dominick Reyes versus Anthony Smith at 205 pounds. I like the matchup. I like this fight. I like this fight a lot. Probably because I like both gentlemen. I got to meet Dominick Reyes in Louisville briefly, and he's a swell guy. There's something really, I think I'm misusing the word humbling, if I were to say really humbling about this. Let me try to explain what I mean. It's like, oh man, I thought this car was about to have music really loud and mess with my video next to me, but all right. So when I went to an NFL game for the first time, I realized the field is the same size as the college field that I have attended, the high school field that I attended. They were just normal guys. They're a lot taller or whatever, but it's like on TV, these people really get to, at least for me, I really get to perceiving them almost as like superhero-like, like larger than life. And Dominick Reyes had the best performance ever and arguably beat Jon Jones, the greatest fighter. So when I met him, he just seemed like a normal guy. Like he looked like a normal guy. He was not chiseled. He's just a normal guy I could have ran into at Walmart or could have walked in and wanted to train with me. There's something about that. I don't know the word, but when I'm saying humbling, it's like something else I say, and I've tried to share with fighters at gyms I used to go to, but people don't like to listen or try things, so they never capitalized on this opportunity. People aren't as out of reach as it seems. So it's like I would have had the perception at the NFL game, I'm never going to talk or meet or sit at a table with one of these players. Well, in fighting, it's so infancy. The sport is in such infancy. Almost 90% of these fighters can be touched. And what I mean by that is like you can send them a message and a lot will reply if you are giving them a quality message to reply to. They're just a human being. You have to give them something they want to talk about. And it's just, I don't know. It's hard for me to explain it beyond that. So I like that I met Dom and he seemed normal. He's just a normal guy. Where I have the same perspective of Anthony Smith, because Anthony Smith was honest with people, and he always is honest with people, where most people aren't honest. They want to do whatever to build whatever they're doing up. It's like it drives me nuts, but anymore I just ignore it. I know a guy that says he learned jiu-jitsu. He did pro wrestling and he learned jiu-jitsu, in case someone got serious with him in a pro wrestling ring. Anyone who does, like, if you have done any combat training, you know how goofy that statement is. You don't just learn it and acquire it. It's not like riding a bike, and there are levels to it. So it's like, I don't know. It's the same with like, oh yeah, I did jiu-jitsu. They went to like 1 or 2 practices in a year. You know what I mean? As if when you got people that go 3 times a week and then they're watching videos at home, there's levels to how much someone participates in something. And it seems like the lower someone is in participation of something, the more they are going to talk about how beneficial it was to them or puts them above other people. So Anthony Smith this has been several years now. Anthony Smith had a guy that I think came into his house high on bath salts. If I remember the story right, Anthony Smith had fallen asleep on his couch in just like his boxers or shorts and something, and had left his garage door open. Through that, an inebriated gentleman entered his home and then began a fight with Anthony Smith. Now, Anthony Smith was honest about it. Someone could easily be like, yeah, I fucked this dude up and beat him up, because we're never going to know. We're never going to know. Anthony Smith came out and was honest. He was like, dude, that was crazy. He's like, I'm one of the best fighters in the world. And at this time, he had just lost to John Jones, I think was his last fight. And he could have won if he would have accepted that knee. Like, he didn't win by performance, but John did an illegal knee, and Anthony kept fighting when he had the opportunity to say, I can't. So props to him on that. But then as he's explaining the break-in, robbery, whatever, he says, dude, this guy was like standing toe-to-toe to me. I hit him with something, he'd be hitting me hard. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in a real fight with someone. And that is going to be because the guy was so inebriated. A lot of people don't realize this, but you're not allowed to be drunk when you go into competition, because that gives you an advantage to where you're not thinking about as much, you're not taking as much pain. It takes off a lot of receptors in your brain. And people don't ever take that into consideration. Same with like being high on cocaine. I don't know the details of bath salts, but I believe this was around the time a bunch of people were doing bath salts, and that's what this guy did. That might have just been what they said because he was acting crazy. But something else about these two fighters that I find interesting and I've yet to be able to articulate perfectly is the concept of learning and knowing too much. When Dominick Reyes when Dominick Reyes lost the decision to John Jones, I believe he went on a 2 or 3 fight losing streak. I think he lost every fight until that fight in Louisville where he beats, I don't even remember who it was now. Cannonier was the main event versus Nasruddin. I can't remember who Reyes fought now, but I think that was his first win to get him back on track, and he was so excited to have that. Nothing should have ever changed in Dominick Reyes' preparation, thought process, training camp, training anywhere after the loss to John Jones. He went against the best fighter and gave the best performance ever, and most people, I think the majority of fans, say he won that fight. I know at the time I thought he did. I thought he won 3-2. It's definitely close. That's the greatest in the world. Okay, I get how you'd want to get a little edge over that, but you don't change much. I wouldn't change anything because you were right there. Whatever he did, whatever changed in his mind, put him on a downward spiral. And I'll watch this in people like Jose. I see Jose Aldo hesitant to strike, hesitant to... And what I feel like these guys are doing is they know so many different angles. They're familiar with so many different openings that they're waiting for a specific one or two, because our brain can only simultaneously hold like one idea at a time, if that makes sense. So if you have 3 options in front of you, you can only deal with one of 3 things. That's the only thing that's going to enter your mind. If there's a 4th thing that person can do and you're not thinking about it, unless they do it, it doesn't come into play at all. But if you have 50 ideas in your head, you got a lot more to think about and a lot more processing to do. I feel like that happened with Dominick Reyes, and honestly, I don't think it's something you can shake off once you get it. Maybe you can't. I think there's a way around it, but you get the idea. I think the same sort of thing is with Anthony Smith, but he didn't get to it in the same path. Anthony's always kind of seemed hesitant until he's winning the fight, is how I would perceive him. And I don't do that as a knock to him. It's like he's trying to find himself, and then once he's found he's ahead, he puts the foot on the gas like he should, but it's like when he's behind, he just doesn't know what to do. He just doesn't, he shouldn't even be thinking he's behind is an issue there. I guess this is more of a psychological breakdown on how I'm looking at the fight. I don't know who I think's gonna win. I don't know who the favorite is. Right now, I want to say I'd go with Dominick, but I'm not positive. I could see Anthony go. I could see either one going in there and having the right training camp and mindset and steamrolling the other one. I could see this being a very dominant fight for Dominick, and I could see it being a very dominant fight for Anthony. I feel like if it's a dominant fight for Dominick, we could easily go to a decision. I don't know if they're doing 3 or 5 rounds on this fight. If it's going to be dominant for Anthony, I think Anthony finishes it. Especially if it's a 5-round fight. I think Anthony would finish him. But time will tell. I'm on a spree now making these videos, but it's my psychological breakdown of Anthony Smith and Dominick Reyes this Saturday. Let me know what y'all think.